How's a play different from a novel? Well, first of all, with a play, you don't have as much information. Normally, what you have is you just have a script, right? And what a script consists of is usually just dialogue and stage directions. So, in this example here, you have these characters in the boldface type. And usually, after the characters, you're going to see a period. And in other circumstances, you'll see a colon. And then what follows after that is usually the dialogue. Those are the lines, those are the words that the character or the actor has to say. Right? Now, usually in parentheses or brackets, depending on the formatting, those are stage directions. That's usually put in by the playwright, the person who writes the play. And that's for the director to get a better feel for what they had envisioned when they were writing the play. Now, plays are a little bit more difficult in some ways, right? Granted, they're shorter than novels, right? But there's less information. So you're left to imagine the setting, how the characters are arranged, the action taking place. You're having to work harder. You're having to fill in the gaps between the lines as to what the actors or characters are actually doing as they're playing this out. So usually this is also by design, right? There's less information, so that actually gives directors of plays and television and movies a lot more options to interpret how it looks and how it sounds. Right? So when we're looking at plays, we're usually only using just two pieces of information. That's dialogue and stage directions, right? And the rest we have to fill in with our imagination. Now, how we talk about plays and how we talk about sections of plays is usually based on three factors, right? Think of a play as something that's broken up into large sections, almost like chapters in a book, but we call these chapters acts, right? There's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4, Act 5. Traditionally, they're usually 3 acts or 5 acts, but more modern ones can be 1 act or 2 acts. There's all kinds of numbers, right? It really depends on the play itself. For the sake of, this diagram, I have 4 acts in this particular play. Now, acts are broken up into scenes, right? This is so that scenes are usually like the background, like props that people use. So you break up the scenes so the stagehands know what to bring in and bring out. Usually it's a change of setting that denotes a different scene. And scenes are broken up into lines, and these lines are also numbered, just like the acts, just like the scenes. So for example, if I have Act 2, Scene 1, line 20 to 22, right? Lines 20 to 22. How we're going to communicate that to people is usually through this. So the very first number is the act, the second number is the scene, and then the following numbers are the lines, right? And if it's more than one line, it's usually the first line where you want to direct someone, followed by a dash, and where you want them to stop reading, right? So if we take this one, Act 1, Scene 3, line 5, it's going to look like this, 1.3.5. And if you were giving that to somebody either in an essay or communicating that to someone on a set, they would know exactly which act, which scene, and which line you were talking about, okay? And this is how we talk and navigate about where to find something in a script of a play, okay? We're going to do 2 more things. Now, what's unique about plays is they often have soliloquies written in there, right? A soliloquy is usually just almost always just one actor on stage or in a frame, right? Depending on what medium it's in. And it's this weird artificial thing where they're giving a monologue, right? Directly to the audience, but nobody else can hear them, right? This is just an old playwright's trick. Think of it as a speech that's given by a character that reveals their inner thoughts and feelings for the sake of the audience to understand what's at stake, right? And to have more investment in the character. No one else can hear the soliloquy except the audience, at least traditionally. And this allows playwrights to give people a peek of what's going on inside a character so that when we go through the plot of the play, we have more connection to it, right? So the most famous soliloquy is the Hamlet "To Be or Not to Be." Arguably, it's the most famous soliloquy, right? He's on stage, he's, thinking about whether or not he should kill himself. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. But anyway, I'm sure you've heard of it at some point in your life, right? Soliloquies occur in plays, right? It's in scripts. It's a monologue that's directed to no one in particular, but really for the audience, okay? And it's there for you to have a peek inside what they're thinking and feeling. And it's a dramatic, thing that's done on stage and it's completely artificial, but it's supposed to give you more insight into the character. One more thing, that is the concept of an aside. It's almost like, think of it as like a mini, like the little tiny bit of a soliloquy, right? Where it's the main character turns to the audience and they speak directly to the audience to like either, raise an eyebrow there. It's like they're breaking the fourth wall, right? So like in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, he constantly talks to the audience in little short quips. In Enola Holmes, she does the same thing. And in The Office, in that whole mockumentary style, when they're just talking directly to the camera, that's really for the sake of the audience. Those are asides. They're short. They're not big monologues, right? They know that they're talking to somebody. They know they're talking to the audience. And sometimes asides can be directed towards another character where they're whispering on stage really loudly so the audience can hear and the other character can hear, but then nobody else on the stage is acting like they can hear. So it's a quick comment, usually reserved for the audience or one other character, and it's not as long or serious as a soliloquy, and it's usually labeled in the actual thing. In the actual script. So, for example, this is an unusual one, right? This is from Romeo and Juliet, right? You can see that Juliet's giving a soliloquy on stage when she's going, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo, right? And she's on the balcony scene. And it's one of those unusual soliloquies because someone else can actually hear. And that's a testament to the concept of love that's supposed to be depicted in the play, because Romeo has entree into her inner thoughts and feelings because she's not really speaking out loud, and but it's a weird conceit. It's a wonderful scene. But anyway, asides are usually labeled like that, and he's speaking directly to the audience, right? Shall I hear more or shall I speak at this, right? He says it for the sake of the audience. It's either directed at the audience or directed to another character or directed to no one in particular. It's really short. Okay, that's it. Those are the things you need to know: asides, soliloquies, act, scene, lines, and what a play does. Okay, high five for learning.